Welcome back. Global brand consultancy Interbrand recently released its annual Most Valuable Brand list. In its 10th year, the Best Indian Brands report has become a definitive guide to the nation's brand landscape. This year's edition showcases remarkable growth, with it also being the first time that the total value of the table has surpassed $100 billion mark. Find out who topped the list and what are the big trends from Ashish Mishra, CEO Interbrand India and South Asia, and Gonzalo Brujó, Global CEO Interbrand, who got into an exclusive chat with Storyboard 18's Dilshad Irani.
Hello and welcome to Storyboard 18, Gonzalo and Ashish. It's lovely to have you on the show.
Thank you and welcome to Interbrand.
Let me begin with asking you both, what is that one key takeaway from this year's evaluation of the top brands that you all have sort of gathered and observed? I'll start with you, Gonzalo. What was your one key highlight?
Well, I think the key highlight of today's ranking is that the economic situation is doing better in India. I can see that the brands are doing the right things. I think they are investing. I think they have the ambition to grow. And I can see more and more the Indian brands representative around the world, not only in Southeast Asia or in Asia, but also going to the United States and also Europe and Latin America. So I'm very, very excited. I see a lot of confidence on the Indian community and the people to try to go beyond.
Just to sort of take up from the point Gonzalo mentioned here about belief and confidence, how do you see that sort of, taking shape in the final sort of outcome that you see with the list?
Yeah, I think that's the most remarkable point that Gonzalo made. We have been doing the league table for a decade now. We did it in our first year itself. And if you look at the past league tables, it felt the league tables were reflecting an old economy situation. While it was all growing and in terms of numbers, we were doing fine. But the kind of brands that dominated the best Indian brands historically came from the old sectors, the so-called old economy sectors. There were a lot of diversified businesses. There were a lot of financial businesses and utilities and stuff like that. What's most remarkable in this league table is the fact that it's now aligned, and there seems to be a universalization of branding, so to say, that we're beginning to see in India. So you'll see tech brands, you'll see the businesses and the sectors that are really driving growth, driving value around the world, beginning to find dominant presence. And where does it come from, really? I think, like what Gonzalo mentioned, it is the businesses leading for a long time to brands beginning to lead now. And that comes from self-belief and confidence.
That's very interesting. Brands beginning to lead now. But since you've started talking about the list specifically, let me just go over the top 10. And then I'm going to ask you, what is that one commonality that sort of ties them in and, brings them up on the list. So there's TCS at 1, followed by Reliance Industries. We have Infosys at 3, HDFC Bank at 4, Jio at 5, Airtel at 6, LIC at 7, Mahindra at 8. In 9th place is SBI, and in 10 is ICICI. So again, we still see, some of the sort of the banks and the old economy companies, but we also see a lot of the new economy firms. So Gonzalo, I'll come to you first, and you could perhaps sort of compare it to what you see on a sort of a global benchmark and scale. But what is perhaps this one common factor that ties all of the most sort of valuable brands in together?
Definitely. Very good question. I think top line, if you see the global league table, best global brands and best Indian brands, you see some similarities in the top 10. The top 10, both of them, they have technology companies. And why is that? I think one of the things that we see in the technology companies is that those companies, they're really, really trying to understand its customers. They really want to understand their segmentation, their customers, how they buy it, what are the things that they can offer to them. So I feel quite exciting that there is definitely a comparison between the global league table and the local one. So the second thing is that they are very agile. I think because they understand the big data, their customers, they are trying to move faster. What I need, how I can help you, how I can be more relevant, how I can improve my customer service to you. So I think these digital companies, because they have the data, they move faster. And I think the third thing is because they know what they want, they know what the customers are looking for, they are probably the biggest innovators right now. So they are trying to bring different offers, different solutions around the world that are in high demand of the Indian community in Mumbai, in India, and around the world.
And it's interesting that whether it's the global league table or the local league table, the top 10 have a very special status. And we actually call them Super League of league table. So there is 100 most valuable brands, but the top 10 are Super League. And likewise in India, the top 5 or top 5 actually out of the 50 are the Super League. And they reflect a pattern, they reflect a value, the kind of dominance and the kind of value creation that you see from the top 10 globally or the top 5 locally is disproportionately high to the rest of the table. They are contributing a very large percentage and almost exceeding the balance 90 or the balance 45. So that's one thing which is really common, that the Super League of brands are really the beacons, and they are demonstrating this really radical progressiveness globally and locally. And there are, if you talk about global, you'll see the likes of Apple, the likes of Nike, Amazon, and the kind of reinvention they're doing to the business models, the kind of stances they're taking. We call the definitive initiatives as iconic moves, and you begin to see the iconic moves that are being made by the global and the local Super League brands. I think that is the most remarkable similarity.
I think something that is very, very exciting to see also some commonalities of the global league table and the local one is that the Indian community as leaders in the best global brands. You have more than 20 CEOs that come from India. Mm-hmm. So imagine how exciting it is for the Indian community to see that, yes, we have fantastic Indian brands, that they are going abroad and they are international and they are growing and they are expanding, but also we have amazing Indian CEOs in American global companies. I think this is probably one of the most fascinating aspects in today's economy, which I think is going to make the belief that I think is happening in India in terms of the economy, in terms of the people, in terms of the aspirations, super exciting.
We've seen how important sustainability has become over the past few years. It's not nice to have, it's a must have. It's a business imperative. ESG, of course, is top on the agenda of every CEO and every financially responsible company. Tell me, in your view of how you've seen the value of brands evolve over the years, how has that sort of sustainability piece, how is that piece around culture, about putting in the new bottom line, which is people, planet, profits, how has that changed for the most sort of valuable brands in the world? Gonzalo, I'll come to you first.
So critical as a differentiator today, and I see today in today's world that these companies, they have a specific purpose to try to add something to the society. This is not about profits, this is about something else. We live in one world, and what we need to do is make the most of it. And I think finally companies, they have the belief that they need to do something different. We call it acts of leadership. So what we believe is that the companies, they have the opportunity to drive change in this specific category, talking about climate change, sustainability, ethics, and integrity. Those are going to be very, very important topics for the brands, but also for their CEOs and the C-suite. This is happening everywhere around the world. And also there is a lot of pressure on doing the right things, making sure that we measure things properly, making sure that we have the right KPIs to make sure that definitely there is not a greenwashing, but this is real strategies to drive change in this specific subject. So more and more we see this not as a trend, but it's a principle on how the company should operate.
Tech companies dominating the list of the most valuable companies in the world, and I mean it's only natural given how pervasive technology is in our lives. But what do you see happening perhaps in the future and even now? Why have you seen any sort of surprise categories emerging? Any categories sort of gaining in prominence and will only gain in prominence going further?
Definitely, I see, besides technology companies, we see lifestyle brands improving big time. We see entertainment brands, what we call it in the play arena. So definitely there is ideally there is more space for customers to enjoy life, and maybe they don't work that hard. So I think the lifestyle brands are growing big time around the world more and more, not only in the entertainment, but also in the sports, in what we call the play arena.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Work-life balance, right? That's very important. Ashish, have you seen anything, if maybe speaking from the India perspective, any emerging categories apart from what we've seen with IT, tech, BFSI?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's a really interesting development as an answer to that. Some of the sectors Gonzalo mentioned are the ones, and if you put the India context, you'll understand why. So, technology, because there is a technology in every business, it's going to grow. FMCG, because we have 1 billion plus people, and therefore consumption is always going to drive FMCG. We would have entertainment and lifestyle because we're moving up the value chain. So I think those are all sectors. What's really worth talking about is there may not be one sector. There may be the same brand playing across many sectors, and we call it, Gonzalo did refer to it as arena. What we speak about as a new pivotal shift in the space of brands and branding is shift from conventional categories to broader arenas. Now, if you look at Amazon or closer home Jio, how would you describe what category they operate in? And we talk about this phenomena as brands that build relationships with customers, having the license to transcend the conventional categories. So Apple does it, Google does it, Amazon does it, Jio does it. We're beginning to see JSW doing it. We, of course, Tata and Godrej kind of brands have always been. Maybe India had the concept of arenas much before arenas were invented. Yes. So we've had diversified, which in a sense were arenas, but increasingly you'll see brands globally and locally playing across sectors using the relationship that they've built with the customers.
So, for example, if you see today a local example, Jio, when we launched Jio, when we created Jio a few years ago, at the beginning was telecom, cellular, mobile, then moving to entertainment, then moving to now lifestyle. Again, you can go here, shop, and you can have experiences and interact in a different way with the Jio brand, which is super exciting. And what will be next? Well, they will be competing with financial services. Again, there is the discussions of Jio Financial Services or Jio Pay, which probably will come around soon as one strategy. So as you can see, as it mentioned, we are moving from industries to arenas. Apple competes with the Arena Fund. Apple competes in the express and in entertainment arena. So as you can see, there is kind of a shift in terms of industries to arenas. So brands enter into different categories. Jio is definitely a perfect example on how brands are evolving in this market.
Absolutely. That's fascinating. It's the era of arenas, right? Well, absolutely. Thank you so much for your time. It was lovely chatting with you both. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, it's a wrap on Storyboard this week. You can catch all of our content on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Thanks for watching. We will be back same time next week. See you soon.